Good evening, everybody. Thanks for dropping by for week 2 of our kind of experimental, fun little project that we are working on, which is trying to bring the whiskey community kind of together during COVID. And we are doing week 2 of the Wild Turkey Russell's Reserve kind of sampling single barrel project for the Our Bourbon subreddit. If you missed last week, we tasted through with Dustless and Donib as well. We tasted through 4 Wild Turkey single barrels, completely blind. We had their numbers, but we did not have their info. Thankfully, tonight I have both of those things. We have their information, and I get to tell you about what we're buying. So without further ado, I want to thank John for helping us host this. He is hosting as part of the Whiskey Net for us. He's pressing the buttons and making everything look nice. So why don't you lead off, John? You can give us some info about what you do, and then we'll get on with tonight's agenda.
Absolutely, brother. Thank you. First of all, I just want to say thanks to the guys from My Bourbon who came in with us last week. Check this out. We did a bunch of fun stuff with checking out these barrels. I am working from TheBourbonFinder, where I do some whiskey blogging. And additionally, I run the Whiskey Net, which is sort of my way of bringing the whiskey world together, creating Discord servers, using a bunch of integration and different type of bots to put more good whiskey content in front of more good whiskey eyeballs.
Awesome. Cool. Well, what do you say? Let me pull up the agenda we got rolling here tonight.
Excited to hear about these turkey barrels, man.
Yeah. So I guess we should, maybe we'll just jump right into that. So for those of you, last week we had 2 barrels that we really liked, almost unanimously as a group. We had 2 barrels we didn't love quite so much, which was kind of interesting. Usually there's not such a strong dichotomy between the two. But also sometimes you get to taste a little bit more than 4 barrels. So we tasted through 4. We started with a 0623, which was the smallest sample. We had a little leakage. That came from location E, also known as warehouse E, and from the 4th floor. So the interesting part of this guy, E, 4th floor, it was distilled on September 19th, 2011. And it came out at the time of the sampling at 117.6 proof. So not super far off from what we'd be getting in the end at 55% ABV or 110 proof. But you know, a little bit higher than I think I expected. This guy was pretty oaky. I think it was our least favorite of 4. So it was kind of interesting. I wouldn't have expected E, but it didn't surprise me when I saw the E. The next sample we tried was single cask 0626, which you guys might have remembered was us kind of dialed in. We liked it a little bit better. Still a bit oaky. One of the fun parts of this too is that I took these samples to a friend's house over the weekend and he tried them, and these were his actual favorite. He was an oaky lover. So let's kind of see the 3-to-1. But this one was distilled, ironically, the same day, I guess coincidentally, and it was also from E, 4th floor. So they must not have been too far off from each other. They were distilled the same day, so about the same age. And it came out, though, at 119.6 proof. So deceptively not as hot. I expected the first guy, 0623, to be the hottest of the 4, but that was not the case. So those are the 2 we didn't like as much, you know. And a key thing to point out here is that we didn't get any bad barrels. Like, we didn't dislike any of these 4. It was just there was 2 we liked better, and 2 we liked not as much, which is kind of interesting. Moving on to the barrels we liked a lot more. This is where things get really fun for me because 2 years ago I did Gobble Till You Wobble, which was 40-something Russell's Reserve barrels, and I definitely had a favorite at the end, so this did not surprise me at all. But these were both from G4 as well. So 2 samples from E, 2 samples from G. These were both distilled on November 21st, 2011. So they're really only 2 months younger than the other single barrels. 0763, which was the second favorite, came in at 118.5 proof. And our all-time favorite 0766 came in at 117.6 proof. So pretty strong showing across the board. Interesting that both 623 and 766 were 117.6 proof, but what can you do? That's statistics. So I was able to go ahead. We did a little talking. Typically, groups only get 1 barrel from stuff like this. We said, you know, maybe we'll reach for the sky. Maybe we'll try and get 2 barrels. Some people suggested I try and get all 4, which was a little crazy. You know, we'll get there. But We are actually going to take both 0766 and 0763. So our bourbon will be getting 2 Wild Turkey Russell's Reserve single barrels in 2020, which I'm pretty psyched about.
Yeah, that's
since
huge.
I liked both of these. So yeah, that's kind of big news. We'll be getting both of these. They're already locked in, so we are good to go. So hopefully we can get this thing moving along. But yeah, location G, 4th floor was the winner for both of these samples. So whether you get one or the other, you're getting a pretty close, pretty tight sample, which is kind of nice. Like they're very similar, but there was definitely some key differences. So you won't end up with a bad one in the bunch. I guess, yeah, we didn't have you taste these, did we, John?
No.
Yeah, that was a weird one. I will say definitely 0766 was a little bit fruitier, a little bit sweeter. 0763 was a little more like savory, desserty, but I am super pumped for both of these because they were great barrels. And this is the first time that our bourbon is getting a Wild Turkey barrel, so I'm pretty jacked about that.
And not only getting one, but you're going to get both of them.
Gonna get 2. Yeah, we had briefly, I was thinking about working for a third, but we got some other stuff coming up this year that I think will be pretty exciting, including, some other barrels from some other distilleries. So we'll maybe talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, so these are the 4 samples. I'll post a picture tomorrow. I will also write this up in text. So if you're driving in traffic right now and your cell service sucks, don't worry, you won't miss anything. You can rewatch this broadcast some other time. And you can just tune in if you want to read it in text while you're using the bathroom or something. I'll write up the whole write up so you get all the information and the dates and stuff. But yeah, this was super kind of cool. It was interesting to see one of these samples popped up in a different group. One of the ones we didn't pick popped up. So I don't know if there was some cross wires there, but I think someone else is going to take a barrel that we didn't like quite so much. Yeah, right on, Brian. Yeah, it works out pretty well.
A lot of that too, I feel like. I mean, obviously it's subjective to the dudes who are going to be doing the tasting, dudes or ladies, I should say, doing the tasting. But on top of that, I mean, you're also, every time you have a flight, a blind, you're going to go through and pick out the things you like, and you're comparing it to the other spirits there, right? You're not just like necessarily, like we would all like to say, sure, this is objective to me. I know that I like this because it has these 5 notes that are like, my favorites. But you compare that to, 3 other barrels that don't really lean your way, and something that didn't jump out to you does on another day, or something that doesn't stand out for you is good for somebody else. So that weird juxtaposition of what you actually like compared to what you like against the other stuff in the flight, I think can win out too.
Yeah, and plus there's always an interesting aspect too. Like sometimes you want to pick a barrel that is off profile for that distillery. Everyone's right. Like, oh, go and pick a weird one, pick that musty guy. These were super on brand for Wild Turkey. I wouldn't, if I tried any of these blind, I might not have guessed them as Wild Turkey right away because it's super tough. But, one of the things I look at is, would I be surprised if this was revealed to me to be Wild Turkey? And the answer with all 4 of these was definitely, I would not be surprised at all. A lot of people have been asking if we'll get these at true cask strength or barrel proof. I want to say that we would, but unfortunately, I don't see that happening. They're pretty strict. If you're within a proof point or 2, they'll let you have it. But these are pretty markedly higher. They're 3.5%, 4.5% higher. So these will be coming down at 55%. So pretty healthy proof still.
Adam's got a question here in reference to how the actual purchase process is going to go for dudes who get selected, dudes or ladies, I should say, sorry, who get selected through the bourbon process of, I think you're doing it through an RNG raffle, right? Of who's going to get a shot at a purchase? Yeah,
so the way I like to do this, right now there's significantly more demand than either of these barrels can fill, which is totally fine. That's probably for the better. It's good to know that you can sell this stuff. But I haven't quite decided, how we're going to work out the 2-barrel thing, because that kind of came as a surprise. I asked for it expecting to be told, like, not a chance. One is one, because Russells have been historically kind of difficult to get, especially in the last year. But I will probably do kind of what we did for the new Riff pick. We'll pick a wave and we'll let you pick your bottle. And at the end of every day, so in order to prevent a mass rush where we crash sealbox.com, I picked at random 100 people every day for like 4 days. And so the first 100 people you got to go in, you could buy 1 bottle. And if you decided not to buy by the end of that day, your opportunity went back into the pool. So I think it took There was 210 bottles. It took 2 days and 10 people. So it sold wicked fast. But for this, we'll probably do the same thing. You know, we'll probably get between 150, maybe 170 bottles if we're lucky. So about 350. And we'll just kind of wave this one through. So, you know, if you get picked on day one, you get your pick of a bottle. You know, if it's day three, there might be more of one or more of the other left over. But I think that's probably the fairest way for something that's going to be so highly in demand. And this way too, you know, other than the moderators who tasted, nobody's going to get a special preference here. So, you know, whether you've posted 10,000 reviews or, you know, you've been lurking a while, that's probably about the fairest way we can do these things, even though it means some people will still miss out.
Goody just wanted to let us know that he missed the memo. We sent the email to you, Goody. You might want to check your spam folder because we're spammy dudes.
Yeah, last week I told John I would wear a blazer, and then I did what I always do, which was forgot that I wore not a blazer.
That's true. That did happen.
But
we're working on the dress code. We're getting it dialed in.
Yeah, you can rest assured though that I am still not wearing pants.
Oh yeah,
you've probably heard in every Zoom call that you've been on for every meeting since COVID started, but we're not drinking unless there's no pants.
Absolutely.
So yeah, so that's the basics for the turkey. For the Brussels, I'll do a full write-up. I'm getting tasting notes from Dustless and Donib. If you want to hear them straight from the moderator's mouth, you can watch last week's stream. We'll post a link to that as well. If not, I'll put up the usual word cloud. If you're familiar with the picks I've done before, you know, if it's the XXX rum series or Haley brandy, you know, we kind of streamline things. So you get a word cloud. You can know what to expect taste-wise. Yeah, and I'm definitely not wearing pants. So if I stand up, you're in trouble.
Certainly not. We'll be banned instantly if any of that has to go on.
Yeah, I guess if I'm going to get kicked off YouTube, that's definitely the way to do it. But yeah, so that's kind of how things work. If you have more questions about the selection, feel free to just kind of toss them out and we'll get to them. But thank you to Joshua Tennis out in California. He is working with us. He's been involved in Plump Jack in the past. And it's thanks to him that we're getting this awesome opportunity. So if you haven't worked with him, if you don't know what Subtle Spirits is about, actually, do I? Oh shit, I do. Joshua previously worked for Plump Jack. Now he's kind of striking out on his own. He's doing independent bottlings. He's done a Sherbet. He's done a Glen Grant. This is his logo. Yeah, you won't really see it.
Yeah.
But Subtle Spirits is his company. You know, reach out, give him a little bit of love because he's the one that's bringing all this wild turkey to each of us, which is something we didn't think we were going to get when COVID struck. So pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely kick ass to get a couple barrels of turkey coming your way.
Yeah. So what are you drinking tonight, John?
Well, I just finished off a little warm up pour of some Evan Williams Black Label, the old tried and true. I also thought it might be a good way to warm up for what we're getting into, something from what you may consider to be similar distillery. You might call it the same.
They could very well be.
They could very well be. So I decided to warm up on that. And then I thought maybe we would address these bottles that we've got sitting here. The Whiskey Cam is showing everybody what we're looking at here, the Daviess County lineup. This is their, I don't think they're actually sold as a set in store. I think you have to buy each bottle individually. But these bottles are, it's all the same distillate. And then they've aged one in a French oak and one in a, I think it's a cab finish, a Cabernet barrel.
Yep, Cabernet.
And so I think we're going to dig into these a little bit and see what we think of them, share those with you guys. I know I've already shot my photos of this stuff and really impressive packaging it gave it to. I was a little bit impressed with that.
Yeah.
I've already shot my photos and done my write-up on it. So I think I'll put that out maybe this weekend. So after maybe a few people have seen the video, they can tie that back and see our notes on it. Or mine, anyway.
Yeah, definitely. So for those of you, you know, we're working on the format here. So this is week 2. We figured that instead of just kind of blinking and looking at you guys, we drink some whiskey while we talked. Great question from Hokie. Wow, that's a great username. Right now, I would kill for 4 Roses. I'm working really hard to make that happen. I think that would be cool as hell. Unfortunately, 4 Roses has also decided to ratchet things way down more than they were before. So we'll see if that works out. But you can know that between a mellow corn selection and a Four
Mm.
Roses selection, those are the two things that I'm making calls about in the off times. But yeah, so this Daviess County, fair disclosure, this was sent to us by, I guess, Lex Rowe,
Lux
are the
Row,
fine
yes.
folks. They reached out and asked if we'd like to try some whiskey. I said sure, because I can't go anywhere right now. And this is a 96 proof bourbon. My guess is that it comes from Heaven Hill, like the vast majority of the rest of Lux Rowe's portfolio. I can't think of much that they have that's not Heaven Hill. But one of the fun facts about this is it's a combination of mash bills. There's a wheated mash bill and a high rye mash bill, and they blended those together. So that's a lot of words to say that it should be very similar to most normal mash bills when you
Correct.
average it out together.
Which I wonder if that's a product of creative blending due to neither being quite what they were looking for. You know, if this is a product that was sort of born out of, hey, we don't have what we want out of our wheater, we don't have what we want out of this high rye, but let's find a way to make these work. And if that was the case, I think they did a fine job with it. And it's actually kind of interesting. You could pick up a lot of the same notes through all three of these, but the way that the higher rye or the wheat shines in each different bottle is pretty interesting. Maybe that's something we can kind of dig into here as we bullshit and chat a little bit.
Which one should we start off with?
I've got the straight bourbon there. The
straight?
For me, it's the middle bottle on the whiskey cam there.
Yeah, it's this blue guy. I've had only a tiny bit. These are basically my first and second pours. I had a little bit of the cab, a little bit of the French, not a lot of the straight. To answer Adam's question, yes, I have turned down samples before. As you guys might understand, I have a huge backlog. I have more whiskey to drink than I ever expected I would. And I want to get reviews out to you guys. So I'm not going to waste time accepting something that I think is going to be crap because, quite frankly, I still have Terra Pure samples left over from the last Craft with 2 Crackdown. So if I want to drink crap, it's already in the cabinet, which is unfortunate to say because it does still look at me. But you know, I try and make sure if I'm going to drink something, I want it to be good whiskey. I can go out and buy bad whiskey on my own. And, you know, Terra Pure gets enough hate in my opinion and stuff like that. So, all right. So this is the straight. And I don't believe, yeah, this is just a straight bourbon whiskey. So I think we can pretty closely figure out if they were getting what they wanted before they finished it.
Right. I mean, I don't think this misses the mark in any one direction at all. I don't notice anything that strikes me as a flaw when I go through this.
Yeah, initially I was kind of worried that these were going to be like 2-year barrels that they put some wine on to try and cover up, but
yep, I was rather skeptical of that as well. So when I first tasted them, I went through. I did the straight bourbon, then the cab finish, then the French oak. Okay. And so I'm thinking about going the reverse direction this time. I'm going to start with the straight bourbon because I like to use that as sort of my boilerplate. This is what I'm going to expect for notes out of here. And then when it deviates, I'll choose the notes from that. So I think maybe I'll hit the French oak, then the cab after this. Yeah, that seems fair. I started with the cab too. I had stashed these away and I was actually looking for wine for dinner. And I was like, ooh, Cabernet bourbon. I mean, I don't usually drink bourbon while I cook, but some days are harder than others. And some days you need bourbon while you cook. Absolutely. Yeah, I cook with bourbon quite frequently. Occasionally put it in the food. Yeah, it's honestly, I'm not a strong proponent of cooking with bourbon. I've never, and maybe I'm just bad. I think of myself as a pretty good cook, but other than like a barbecue sauce or like, I don't know, like a brown sugar reduction, I just haven't found something. Like a lot of my friends would put Ardbeg in a barbecue sauce, and that's a really great way to end up with an entire dinner just for myself because no one else in my house likes Ardbeg. Hey, Rare Bird. Good to see you, David. How we doing, DJ? So yeah, this is it's a little bit young on the nose. It's not. Oh yeah. I mean, I would be shocked if this was more than 5 or 6 years old. Yeah, and I'd also be shocked if it was less than 4. This is, I think, what reinforces my predisposition to believe that this is Heaven Hill. It's got lots of that nice cornbread, a little bit, just a hint of banana, kind of candy-like. Yeah, I get that candy in there. Some of that lighter caramel toast. Yeah, it's nice to see that there's not a ton of oak on this, which, right, you know, it could use a little bit more, but I don't, you know,
this is pretty spirit forward, which is kind of nice to see. Because one of the big risks with finishing bourbon too is like a lot of places will just bludgeon their base spirit with any wine that they can get their hands on. But oh, good question. I think finishing is almost an art form in and of itself, just as much as blending and distilling are. Like I've said, we see finishing a ton in the Scotch world. Some places are really, really good. Thinking like Glendronach, thinking, even Glenmorangie has a pretty nice poured finish. A lot of places will use excessive wine to cover like a really young spirit. I'm looking at you, Edrador, with your recent releases. Cavalan is another huge offender of this. Will take a 2-year spirit. And if you dump enough wine in it, it tastes good because it tastes like wine instead of base spirit. But I think when masterfully done, I can think of some bourbons. Some of the Magnus have been great. 1 or 2 of the whistle pick finishes have been really nice. But I think it almost comes down. And if your distiller is not great at it, it can get a little out of control. But, someone finishing something right takes a lot of work because you're trying to bring out, extra notes from your malt instead of just covering up flaws. But plenty of places do cover up flaws with finish.
Sure. I mean, and there's no set standards or guidelines on what they need to be doing with that finish either. I mean, you don't know if that's something where they took those wine casks and rinsed them, steamed them, and set them out to season, or if they took those bastards off the boat, left a half gallon of wine in there and filled them straight back up. And
yeah,
I mean,
that's an interesting point to make.
I think you can kind of tell with how the end product comes out. I think that this, I mean, we haven't dug into this pour yet tonight, but I think in the first couple pours I had of the cab finish on this, it doesn't strike me as, holy shit, this thing is full of wine.
Yeah.
I think there's influence there, but I don't think it is they left, these were like soaking wet barrels with a little bit of juice sloshing around the bottom. They filled it back up. I think that this is just a nicely done style finish.
Yeah, I think I can speak to that in the form of like, I was kind of afraid that this would be like Angel's Envy.
Right.
When I opened
like
these.
Straight dessert.
Yeah. As Hokie pointed out, which the rye is a totally different story. That is not a straight rye. Something is happening there before it even sees the Caribbean rum. But yeah, they kind of bludgeon that bourbon is super soft, and then you put port, which is a really, really bold flavor on top of it, and then you just taste port. So that's kind of where I'm working from on these. My hope is that they're not like Angel's Envy. I'm pretty happy to say that I don't think that they are, but I think Angel's Envy has a little older base malt backing it up too.
True. Yeah, that's a deeper set of flavors going on in most of the Angel's Envy stuff, which for me personally, I mean, living in Maine in a controlled state, we've got a limited selection on what we're going to have on the shelf anyway. Yeah. And which also goes to the bars here. Like, it's not like they're going to have a wider selection than I do in my bunker. So there's a few bottles that I like to intentionally not purchase. So that way, when I'm out, I could be like, you know what? I'm going to have
that's a good point.
Tonight. And so I sort of like intentionally reserve those bottles to sit on the bar. And Booker's is one of them because it's now up over $80. And that's strictly because I'm kind of a curmudgeon about what Booker's has done with the pricing. Love Booker's, still do, always have. Used to love buying it when it was $60. I would almost always have a bottle or two, even have 2 different batches going. But I didn't want to keep chasing the price point on it, as the spirit itself never changed. And I mean, if it started at $80 and always stayed there, I'd probably still be buying it. But as it moved north of the initial pricing, it just kind of get to the point where I was like, you know what? I like to just leave that one on the bar, so that way when I show up someplace, I can have a pour of that, and I know I'm going to like it, and I haven't had it recently. It's not like it's sitting at home and I can have it cheaper,
Yeah, that's a really good point. I don't know if many of you were on Reddit about the time that Beam pulled that off. If you were part of the Fuck Beam movement. Fuck Beam.
The first price hike to 100?
Yeah, well, yeah, they cut it from 6 batches a year to 4. No, then they said it's going to go to 100, up from 55. And I like to think that our revolt, which I think probably mirrored everyone else on the internet, was super negative. And they said, okay, we'll raise it $10 a year for the next 4 years, which they're, I think, 3 years deep in doing. So I think it's going to end up at 95. Yep. A lot of you have been asking if I'm going to fill out Booker's in my review archive. I'm trying, but I've been so resistant to buying them. But yeah, Booker's is a great example of that. I personally, Eagle Rare 10 for me when I'd go out, I could get a port for like $9, which felt okay, you know. But the prices have gone up here too. Bitch and Vids, that is a great username that I would not use for work. I have not had the Bardstown Chateau Labad. I am looking forward to having it. It has not come yet to Wisconsin, so I'm just kind of like waiting. But I also haven't really tried. I did not have the Prisoner either.
You know, I squandered the 200 ml I had of that. My first pour of it, I wasn't crazy about. It seemed to me like similar to the things that we just discussed, where there was just a ton of wine character in there. Like,
is that?
And I like red wine, dark, jammy wines. Like, that's right up my alley. But I don't like blurring the line between bourbon and wine. I like to have some of the influence, but I can't get on board when it's, you know, borderline flavored. And it walked that line, but tiptoed a little bit too far from me. So I tried it one night, wasn't crazy about it. Tried it another night with dinner, like with the ribeye, trying to just kind of see if, you know, maybe I could bridge that gap. And it didn't quite do it. It was okay. It was better that way, actually, paired with some food that matched it.
Okay.
But it just didn't do it for me enough that I give it to a buddy to, you know, get his 2 cents on it and just see what he thinks. And he said it was just okay for him, which it doesn't really surprise you. But I haven't tried their newest finish either.
Yeah, I was interested in the Prisoner. That was like $100, right?
I don't remember. I had a 200 ml of it. I think I got it through Rack House Whiskey or something. I don't even remember where.
Oh, yeah, they did do that exclusive. Yeah, and that's I think they tried to capitalize. Yeah,
it came with a signed bottle of the Fusion. I think it was the Fusion series.
Okay.
And a glass from Bardstown Bourbon Company. I mean, overall, it was a decent snag, but the Prisoner one was just a little bit too heavily influenced for me on the wine.
That doesn't surprise me too. I mean, because I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, Prisoner is an Orin Swift wine. And Orin Swift is kind of, he likes to go for big flavors, for better or for worse. Yeah, I'm looking forward to trying the Chateau. I haven't had much Bardstown Bourbon Company. They're not for sale up here. I was supposed to go down there, but COVID kind of stumped all over that. We'll talk about that later. But yeah, that'd be one I'd be interested to try. They're doing some cool stuff. They're doing some weird stuff, certainly. But
I'll put some of the Fusion in front of you next time I get something going your way.
That's right.
That's one that I'm gonna have to give you like 200 ml of it, because that one took a little bit of work for me.
Oh,
just
did it?
Kind of wrap my mind around it, and it wasn't like it was anything crazy or complex. It's a blend, and I like to kind of suss out everything in there. So I like to take a good 3 or 4. This one I think took me about 4 pours to kind of get into it enough to really sum it up.
Okay.
I'm going to circle back a little bit here with Rare Breed 101. It said it's hard to pass on Rare Breed with Booker's when it's twice the price. And he's not wrong about that for sure. What I would counter that with, though, is the new Baker 7 relaunch. The single barrel Baker, yeah. I thought came about, I think it came in swinging. That new Baker's product came in really doing some good work. The first few barrels that we saw were 8.5 years, and I thought they were really tasty. They were, I think, still $8 or $9 more expensive than Rare Breed. So he's got a point either way, because Rare Breed is damn delicious. But I think it's hard to, it's just hard to look up to Booker's when you get like a few options right there.
Well, and it's hard too. And I mean, so it's older. It's a few proof points lower, but it's cheaper. I mean, you have Knob Creek just taking Booker out at the knees, in my opinion. I know a little bit different flavor profile, a little bit different parts of the warehouse, but I mean, local store here just got a 13-year pick for $42.99. Like,
yeah, how the hell do you beat that, man?
That's obscene. Even the 12-year release that just came out, I think, is $80.
Yeah,
like, I'll buy it eventually, but I'm having a hard time while the single barrels are just crushing it.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, here in Maine, we've never had still haven't seen the Baker 7 on their shelf yet. When that does come your way, Dana, you're going to want to try it. It's definitely worth it, in my opinion. I mean, assuming it's under $60. if you start creeping up into that 70 plus, like I've got like an arbitrary limit at 75, and it is totally arbitrary. Like there's no real reason why I think 75 should be my cutoff, but it is. And now that Booker's has gone past that, I'm like, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
But the Knob Creek 12, I did pick up a few bottles of that. And man, is it reminiscent of a 12, 13, 14-year-old Knob Creek pick? Yes, it is. But it's also 100 proof points. And I mean, I don't want to sound like a proof whore because you can get great stuff at 90 proof. But when you compare that 12-year, $65, I think 60 or 65 bucks here. I can't quite remember what the Knob Creek 12 was. But I mean, when those very few single barrels come in and they're like 50 bucks or less, 120 proof, you just can't beat it. They're just too damn good. Yeah,
yeah.
And the box for Booker's has at least 30 bucks.
Yeah, Booker's boxes have been fun, but they kind of just get in the way at this point. But yeah, so I mean,
all the creative projects you could do with them, man. When you're done with them,
yeah, you can do some real dirty shit with those things, I'm told.
Well, phrasing aside, I've seen people make flower pots out of them, or like little herb gardens and stuff that you could do right in your kitchen.
Yeah, fun fact: if you have sample bottles, if you have 2-ounce oh, I do have some. If you have sample bottles, they fit 2 wide in a Booker's box, and I think they fit 10 or 12 deep. So you got cheap sample storage. If you almost die under an avalanche of these things, like I am, which is ironic. This is from Bardstown as it is, but it's not any of their products that are on the line right now.
Fancy.
So keep an eye out for that. But yeah, so to kind of bring it back, I mean, I think that a finish can be risky. I think a finish can do some really good things. I think you can overuse the finish to cover up some flaws. I don't think we see a ton of it in American whiskey right now. I'm glad to see people finishing. I know some people believe that, if you have to touch a bourbon after it comes out of the barrel, that is totally no good. We all know that, there's some different opinions on that. I like to try new things. I like to try wine finish things, but, there's some risks there. I don't think we see too many outside of Angel's Envy that are just crushing their spirit, unless you're talking about Slaughterhouse, in which case you should put that back down because it's disgusting.
Got yourself a deal.
Have you had Slaughterhouse?
No.
Or Straight Edge, which is ironically put on a alcohol bottle. Yeah, those are bad. Those are sourced from Kentucky, finished in California. I think they're kind of what Prisoner is a better version of that, not having had Prisoner, but yeah, Slaughterhouse is terrible bad. So let's say, what do you say? Should we move on? Let's get your thoughts. So this is the straight. I think on the nose, it's a little bit young. It's nice and sweet though. It's very bready, light banana, very light banana, maybe some strawberry.
Yeah, for me, I get a little bit of this like toasty sort of banana nut bread. Like there's definitely, I can tell that there's some wheat in there. It's like maybe like a homemade, like really rustic wheat bread that's been toasted up, a little bit of honey on it, and then some of that banana nut bread kicking around. I don't pick out anything in there that I'm like, I kind of don't like this. There's no like weird young wheater funk. There's no off-putting notes. I mean, totally serviceable bourbon. I mean, if this is 25 to 40 bucks, I think you could do a lot worse.
Yeah, I'll agree. It's light. It's not super bold. I wouldn't put this in a cocktail.
No, I think you'd lose it in a cocktail.
And I probably wouldn't taste this at the end of the night after you had something barrel proof, but there's nothing wrong with the nose. On the palate, it's a little bit thin, but certainly no heat. It's kind of that sweet, almost slivered almond, amaretto, fresh baked bread. Nice finish though. Finish is bringing me around.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it is a touch thin on the palate, but for me, when I'm going through that and I'm thinking, okay, it's not hitting me in a, standing out in a great way here on the palate, but it's also not hurting itself either. I think it comes through clean, and it's like you said, it's pretty delicate, but it's definitely not like, I wouldn't say it's like one of those guzzlers where you're getting like right. You're not getting just like a little touch of vanilla and caramel, and you're like, oh man, I just want to slug this thing,
Yeah. So the straight, not great, certainly not bad. I'd say it's good. It's worth a shot if you're curious to try it at a bar.
Yeah, I'd give that a whirl.
Yeah, nothing wrong with it. So let's see. You started with the cab, you said? Should we do cab next?
No, I started with the straight.
Oh, okay. So
That's what you had, right? Yeah, we both just did the straight. And
yeah, I
just
was
picked up
thinking on your first tasting.
Yeah, my first tasting, I went to the cab after the straight. So this time I'm going to go to the French oak.
Just put that back. Cool. Yeah. So French oak, I've had a little bit more of. This one's interesting. French oak
I
is
have
fun
too.
because French oak is super aggressive, or can be, based
Yeah.
on if it's virgin or not. There was an Octomore in French oak. I think it was 7.4. It was fucking fantastic. But let's get this guy out of the way. I want to say that these bottles are like, what, $35, $42 ish. I think they all live in that range. I think you buy them individually. I don't think you get a bonus if you buy all three, unless your retailer is doing one. But I'd say
Right.
very clearly mid shelf, probably same price as a Elijah Craig. You know, probably higher than Buffalo Trace. To be quite honest, I have a Buffalo Trace I was drinking here earlier. I would give this the nod over the straight, but you know, we'll see what the other finishes do.
Yeah, I would think that Buffalo Trace is probably a couple of years older, and just that extra complexity you're going to pick up there. The price point on the Daviess County bottles, I think, it's floating right around 40. I think what it is basically whatever you find Old Ezra 7 for, I think it's going to be a few bucks cheaper.
That seems fair.
I think that's where it's going to be because I mean, look at these; they're essentially the same bottle. You get the same cork and topper, coming from the same parent company. And I think what you're going to see, I wonder, I should have grabbed Rebel Yell 10 from the bunker too.
That would have been a good one.
That would have been a good comparison. I think I have.
I like those.
Oh, you know what? I might have killed my Rebel 10. I know that I've got some old Ez too. I'm gonna, now that I think of it, I'll do a comparison with that later.
Okay.
Yeah, someone send me
that
some
makes sense.
would you, Richard? But
yeah, honestly, the straight tasted like, if it had a few more years, it tastes like Elijah Craig.
Yeah.
The current Elijah Craig, not the old oaky shit.
So, Eric,
all right.
Bourbon for the Masses, is letting us know that the straight is $40 and the finished series 45.
Cool.
So
like $5 more than I would have really liked.
Yeah.
I think I have a hard time. 40 is like a weird bourbon point for me.
Yeah, it is. There's not a lot of good stuff on the shelf at 40. It's either just above that, or you're looking for something that's going to punch above its weight class or a lower price point. Like, well, we don't need to list off a bunch of other things, but you know what I mean? Where when you are looking at the shelf, it's like, am I going to actually spend $50 on this, or am I just going to get something for 25?
Yeah.
When you start looking at 40, it's like a kind of a wonky spot for me anyway.
It's worth pointing out that these are brand fucking new.
Right.
You know, vote with your wallet. I guess that if my guess is that they probably put this where they'd like to see them come in. If they don't sell super fast, we'll see them come down a few bucks. We see that with pretty much almost every product, at least here in Wisconsin. We're a test market for a lot of stuff, but you know, 45. I'll be curious to see for the finishes. These see the same age as the straight, except they have a 6-month finish in French oak, and then Cabernet Sauvignon. So we'll see. 6 months really isn't a long time, even in Kentucky, for a finish. But I'm curious to see, because French oak is pretty aggressive. But wow, okay, that's different already.
Oh, so, yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong. That is that banana note is just totally gone.
Right. Yeah, I pick up a good amount more spice and even a little bit of like not a sweet chocolate, but maybe like a little bit of a mocha.
Mm-hmm. There's actually some pepper here too, which is usually where I start to pick up like an oak structure.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, if you just told me that this was the same spirit but 2 years older, I might believe you.
Yeah, French oak would do that for sure.
Yeah, maybe even 3 years, man. Like, I mean, if we're gonna call the straight 5 years,
yeah,
you could probably trick me into thinking that this were 7 or 8, just because there's that, as you like to say, that oak structure that's in there, man.
Yeah, it's got some stuff. The pepper is nice to see because the straight is sweet. If you like sweet bourbon, that's going to be for you. If you like sweet, kind of just from start to finish, that guy was sweet. But on the nose here, there's some nice pepper. The baking bread is still there, which is good. I like baking bread. We've been baking a fuck ton of bread. Pepper. Almost more of a red berry, which is kind of a sign of maturity.
Yeah, as that weeder gets a little bit older, start pulling more fruit out of it. For anybody who didn't miss it earlier, Take was telling us that the mash bill on this, it's actually a blend of two different mash bills, weeded and what they call a high rye, which I don't think is a super high rye, to be honest with you, but
no, just enough to be there. But on the palate, this one's definitely a lot spicier.
Oh yeah, for sure. I dig it though.
Yeah, this typically French oak isn't something I go for. Whoever said we should send John some Octomore, I think that'd be a fun one to do on stream. I don't know if you, as a non-Scotch guy, I think that.
Yeah, that's why he said he knows that I'm not a Scotch guy. I think he would get a kick out of watching me suffer through the smoke.
The best part of Octomore is that everything you consume after having Octomore for like 36 hours kind of tastes a little bit like Octomore.
There's just not that many things about that are making me crazy horny to try it.
That's fair. But yeah, so the finish on this is a little shorter, which surprises me. But the nose is so much richer, which I think is a good thing.
I think that spice for me is sticking around a lot. It's not carrying a ton of flavors through the finish. It might be a little bit shallower as it comes in there, but the spice is sticking around, which probably just as a juxtaposition is what I'm liking about it, how it's not that kind of light, sweet, soft rolling finish. It's just a little bit more punch to it.
That's a good point, yeah.
I mean, especially for something being the same proof point too.
Yeah, we'll get John trying some funky rum at some point. That's an experience. That will actually.
Yeah, I got actually a sample of Dr. Bird.
Oh, yeah.
I cracked it open the other night. It was sent to me by somebody who got it as a sample themselves. And I can see that there's like maybe an eighth of the sample bottle is gone.
Yeah.
And his notes were.
Like,
yeah, he basically like got some on his lips and almost died. So he decided that he would send it to me.
Yeah, those are good. We'll get you docked up at some point.
Yeah, that's what I need.
Some Ron Burgundy in there. But
yeah,
I would love to see more rum. You know, we have the botched Angel's Envy rye. I'd love to see some more rum finished bourbons. I know there's one or two, but it would I'd probably be interested to see what 6 months in rum after 6 months in this French oak did.
Man, that'd bring in a deep layer too. Get a lot of that like thick, heavy vanilla molasses type of deal going on.
Yeah. The finish on this, I think, might be the most interesting because this is super spicy.
Yeah, this is for something that is. I mean, we can assume that these are the same exact distillate, right? I mean, the same exact blend. This isn't one thing in oak and one thing in cab.
No.
So it's pretty crazy to think just how much more spice is pulling out of it. And that little lick of chocolate in there.
And a key, too, is they don't tell us if this is a virgin French oak cask or if it's a refill.
Right.
My guess, based on the price point, is that this held something beforehand. But, I mean, this has a lot more barrel than I ever expected, especially for 6 months. So this could totally be, you know, I think 20 barrels is the batch size. Maybe I'm thinking of something else. You know, it's not a huge run. If they got virgin French oak, that would totally explain how much spice there is here.
Yeah.
So, all right, what are you thinking? Yay, nay?
I dig it.
You dig it. All right, so that's 2 diggits.
I think on the nose, it's got a lot that I like. A lot of things going on. The palate's just okay.
Okay.
Again, though, I couldn't tell you something I don't like out of it.
Good. Well, that's a great start, I think.
Yeah, I mean, if this had just a touch, see, I want to say if it had a little bit more sweet to complement that oak, but I don't know if it would be too much or not. I mean, that spice does a lot of good work here.
Yeah, and one thing I do like, so we always complain that 40% is where a lot of this stuff starts.
Right.
You know, a lot of novelty stuff. So this is 48%. That's like pretty close to my ballpark, like good zone of 50.
Yep.
You know, I'm happy to get 45. I think 48 is really good. I like this better. I think if this exists for $5 more, there's no real reason to buy the straight. And I would totally use this in a cocktail. I think that if you wanted a Manhattan that wouldn't get you fucked up if you use Booker's or something, $45, it's kind of hard to go wrong there. But It's towing that line. If this was $40, I'd be way more excited about it.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I don't think I would make $5 a hill to die on with this one. It's obviously going to be. I mean, this is something that if this was $35, let me raise you $5 or decrease your raise by $5. If this were $35, I think I'd be telling people to get the fuck off of YouTube and go get a bottle of it, because it's going to be something cool that you haven't had before.
Yeah, and plus, like,
it's definitely interesting.
That $35 range is kind of uncontested. Like, you're between things around the 2025, like Evan Williams, Bottled and Bond, and Wild Turkey and stuff like that. That would have been a really great kind of no man's land to just scoop up.
Yep. Yeah, and I mean, I guess so. We're both in control states, so our pricing gets shielded to some effect.
Actually, Wisconsin's independent.
Oh, is it really?
Thank God. Otherwise,
that would explain why you get so much more mezcal than we do.
Yeah, all 8 SKUs instead of your, I think, 2.
Geez, yeah, 2 is generous.
We might be up to 9 now. I don't know. They've really been pushing some progressive stuff.
You guys are just a front runner in the spirits industry. So I don't know. I think just being in one of those sort of insulated states for me makes it a little bit tricky, because that, like, anything less than about $22 is where you start getting into the stuff that's like probably like $9 in Kentucky. It's those things that like nobody wants, really.
Yeah, the Zacharias and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, and we don't get anything that's in that like $15 to $30 range. We have like maybe 8 or 9 SKUs in there. Like, it's a really skinny market in the budget world up here. So when you
That's
start
right,
looking at,
because you guys get Bottled and Bond for the first time, right? That Evan Williams.
Yeah, we just got Evan Williams Bottled and Bond last month.
That's right. So
actually,
that's the state.
It was listed and then it showed up this month in June. So we've just finally got Evan Williams white label here for the first time ever.
So things are a little bit dire where
like
you are.
17 or 18 bucks. So
yeah. So overall, I think that the French oak is better than the straight. This. I don't think this is going to take down Knob Creek. I don't think it was really made to.
No.
It's kind of cool. It's nice to see some experimentation. I think Lex Rowe is probably trying to take up a little more room on the shelf since people bought their other stuff. I still think Rebel Yell is good. They've demonstrated that they can source well and they can price okay. So, it's kind of crazy that that's where the floor for quality is in bourbon now. But they're doing okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think the fake it till you make it adage holds true with bourbon. I mean, if you're starting out and you're not sourcing from Heaven Hill, Barton, or MGP, you're going to have a really tough time.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be trying to push stuff that's either too young and ultimately not great, or too expensive for what it is.
Exactly. And if you don't have a local competent craft distiller that wants to give you stuff, you're kind of stuck. So, all right. 35 is tough. Eagle Rare used to be like $23 here. Now it's up to 30, 34, 37.
Yeah, it's 34 here. Which, I mean, honestly, I'm not mad at an age-stated 10-year bourbon at $34. It's super consistent. It's Buffalo Trace, which, people love to hate and hate to love, but it's a product that I like. Personally, I stole that from DJ, by the way. I like their products in general, and I'm not super mad at $34, but there's just like not a whole hell of a lot competing with it at the exact price point.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, I'm still kind of in a bubble here. This is a pick by Riley's, which is a store here in Madison. I think it's doing great stuff, but I think this was like $27. So I'm lucky that it's shying out of that range where I have to kind of wonder what I'm spending $35 on if it has to be bourbon. But a great question from Hokie. Good to see Nella in the picture there. An interesting thing, it's really hard for us to tell craft whiskey people what to do because they have so much money invested that they're typically not making any back on. But I like to see transparency. If you're sourcing, tell me. It's fine if you're sourcing. I'll understand. I really like both what New Riff and Driftless Glen are doing, which, they're very aware of when their stuff is ready and they're doing other things to make money in that time. whether it's gin or having a restaurant or having a really nice bar. It's kind of difficult because there's so many different approaches now that are all kind of showing that they work okay. Wilderness Trail has some interesting stuff. Ooh, $40 for BT pick. Yikes. But really, I'd like to see, a little more experimentation. Driftless Glen is doing a couple different rye mash bills because they want to know which one works best in 5 years. And I think that's cool. They're not afraid to throw spirit down the drain if they think it's bad. And I think some places are a little too risk adverse. So, if you're doing it and you're trying to take on the big guys, you got to go all the way.
I think Driftless has done a great job too so far. I mean, I'm trying to remember which pick of yours I picked up. I think it was the Bourbon.
That bourbon is good.
Yeah, man. And I don't remember the age on it. I'm sure you do, but it is very tasty for a 4-year product. And it's got great color. It's got good depth, plenty of notes in there. Like, sure, I would love to see it just a bit richer. But hell, I mean, 2 more years on that is going to be significant.
Yeah, that's kind of what we had at New Riff. We had a really, I didn't have a hard time at Driftless Glen. I probably tried 20 barrels by the time the day was done. And thank God the one I really liked was still kind of in the beginning. And, they didn't have terrible stuff. Everything was pretty good. Everything had a lot of similar profile. New Riff, we didn't have a bad barrel all day. There was, we kind of yelled about it in the little taster room with Alina because, we finally had to get rid of some. She's like, you can't take all of these. And I was like, but I want to.
Yeah, these are all good. Shut up.
Yeah, and yeah. Well, and I wanted 7 barrels to start. And they're like, you can have 1. And I was like, all right.
Okay, fair enough.
But, it's kind of cool to see these places. They're coming in their own. 2 years ago, I would have written them off. I wrote a lot of these places up 2 years ago. I heard, for instance, Starlight. I had a Starlight in the Craft District Crackdown that sucked. And now I hear that they're doing okay things. So, they're sticking with it, which I think is good. They're not dumping 1-2 year whiskey all the time. And I think that's key. So patience is profit, in my opinion. Yep. Yeah. So this is the Cabernet. They don't say who the wine cask came from. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't know. They probably took those barrel heads, shaved them. So you didn't know when they were brokered. But this also spends 6 months finishing in a Cabernet cask. So I would guess 5-year mark, 5.5, 4.5, probably 4.5 to 5.
Yeah.
This is the same price, 45, I think.
Correct. According to the Bourbon for them asses, Eric.
But wow, this is a little less barrel on the nose here.
Mm-hmm.
This is definitely fruitier, but it's not blowing anything out.
No, man, it's not. It doesn't really lean very far in any one direction for me. I'll wait till you dig into it a little bit before I start sharing more on it. But it's something that what I find unique about these Daviess counties is, would that be the right way? Daviess counties? I don't know how I want to say that. What I find unique about these bottles is they're the same product effectively, but each one has its own very distinct profile, which is pretty cool. Yeah. I mean, you really do feel like you're getting involved with, like, if you weren't, I don't want to say an uneducated consumer, but if you were somebody who kind of popped into a store, saw a bottle that hit your price point, liked the label, for whatever reason you picked up the cab finish, brought it home, I think you'd be like, oh yeah, that's pretty good. I wonder if these guys have anything else. And then you stopped and you're like, oh, hey, holy shit, French oak, cool. You might not necessarily tie those together, be like, oh, it's the same damn thing. But instead of 6 months in cab, it's 6 months in oak. Like, I think that there's a chance that they could do some pretty good damage in the market where folks are looking at a price more than they are showing up well-versed in what's on the shelf and knowing what they want.
Yeah, and plus this gives that cool experimentation, right? Like, I think Jefferson did it a while back where they released like an 8-flask series. You could taste 8 different finishes. And I thought that was super cool. And it was super expensive, but it was super cool. This is a great way. Sure, you buy all 3. You're out the door under $150 with lunch and tax. And you get to kind of see like base spirit and 2 different finishes. And I'm not advocating that that's, I think, a great price or that you're getting the best bourbon ever. But that's a really cool experience you can't get from another easy distillery. Like Buffalo Trace doesn't have a, you know, let's see what finishes do.
Right.
Which I think is a novelty that if you're interested and you want to know how wine finishing or cask finishing does things to bourbon, I think this is a great way to do it on the cheap too. And like, you know, one of the risks is that you buy a big sample pack and some of it sucks, but you know, this is a really cool way to see wine working in action even after 6 months.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I mean, good on Lux Row for knowing enough about exactly what you're speaking to bundle these together in a respectable looking package to get out to their media audience to say, okay, guys, try these out, write up your notes, tell us what you think, share this with the world the way you want to, and let everybody know what you think of what we got going on. And I think that it's a pretty cool way for them to do it, because if they had sent, for example, just the French oak to, I know a few other people who have received the same media kits that we did. If they picked up just that bottle, they might say, you know what, I'm not real crazy about this. I'm probably all set with Daviess County. And then I know folks who might have said the same thing about the Cabernet finish. And bundling these together and saying, okay, here's the same stuff. Here's the straight, and then it's finished 2 ways. Try them out. I think it's a great idea. And it's a good way for them to really kind of, you know, blow the doors off this thing where they're relaunching this brand. And it should be something that I think could be restored to glory.
Yeah, I think that, you know, something we don't always see is a clear product direction. I think that this does not suffer from that. I'll take a quick detour. Hokie. Great question.
Tonight, huh?
Yeah, it's like this guy's informed or something.
Seriously, educated.
Yeah, so subreddits are interesting in that they are on the internet, and one of the hardest parts is convincing a retailer distributor that your buying power is legitimate. We see this especially hard in Scotch, which we talked about last week. Attrition is super high. Everyone wants everything ever until it's time to pull out your credit card. So the number I go with for bourbon, I assume that there's about a 50% attrition. So we had about 5,000 people sign up. I expect about 2,000 of them. I know, a little skeevy, a little on the conservative side. I expect about 2,000 of them to truly be interested and want to buy. And I expect that price will cull that in half. So we've gone from 5,000 to 2,000 to 1,000 people. I mean, at this point, we kind of let our picks speak for themselves, you know. I've been involved in a lot of this kind of stuff with a lot of other really great people and retailers and other places, whether it was New Riff's Bourbon and, you know, Diamond in the Riff, or if it's been the Triple X Rum series, aficionados, Hail Yak, Armagnac, or the Cognacs and stuff like that. And you start to get a little bit of just a better expectation. I won't say a reputation because, you know, we're not Prov. We're not Goik. We're not Dan the Bourbon Man or the Bourbon Enthusiast. But it's important for them to kind of gauge your expectations. Some stores say, you know, if you can sell this in a week, that's cool. Or if you can sell this in a month, that's cool. Or if you can sell that in a year, that's cool. Some stores, you know, want an instant sellout, and that's hard to promise. And so maybe we don't work for those stores if we can't do it. Diamond in the Riff, I expected to sell in a week. It sold immediately. It sold out with every single wave that went through. So it's kind of a relationship thing too. I try and really stress that they understand where I'm coming from and they know the kind of people that they're working with. And that's always, that due diligence has always paid off. So I haven't had one flunk yet, but that's because we get to work with great people. Seal Box isn't perfect, but they're doing a lot of good stuff. They're ramping up every day. I'm excited to work with another company for Russell's. Fine Drams for the rums is fantastic. So, you know, if you find good people to work with that believe in what you're doing, it's pretty easy to get them on board.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, also to touch back on the transparency you spoke about earlier, if you start talking about, I mean, just the fact that you guys picked, say, your Russell's barrels. So you can come to a retailer and be like, look, I know you don't know me. I know that I'm just some scumbag from the internet and I've got this delicious beer that you think is awesome. But check this out. We did our last 2 tastings live on YouTube. We shared our notes. We put it all together, and they sold out in this many days. You're able to, you know, step back and provide perspective to not only a retailer, but also just to your audience too, and say, hey, look, Reddit, this is what we're doing. This is how we did it last time. This worked. This didn't work. We can move forward in this direction. What do you guys think? It's easy to sort of crowdsource data when we're putting it right out there for you to see live and check it out.
Yeah, and it's fun too, you know, Everyone that buys a bottle, I love to see Diamond in the Rough. Tons of people reviewed, and people are like, this is okay, or some people thought it was great. I didn't see a lot of like, fuck, this is bad, man. That makes me happy.
Right.
But it's cool to
Vindicating.
get that honest feedback from everyone and say, we picked some stuff, and that's ultimately what keeps people coming back, right? Bourbon sells itself the first time.
Right.
And what brands and what we have to worry about is selling it the second time, because if people don't have faith that the people who are running this stuff are doing it in a way that's conducive to getting better picks or picks that they might like again, what's the point in doing it? And especially as someone who, this isn't my job. This is what I do after my job. It's kind of nice to see people react, and I know what to learn from, So that was a long-winded way of saying, find good people to work with.
Fucking A.
So this cab.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Yeah. So I'll admit, I really like wine. I'm not a big cab person, but I really like wine. If you got Grenache, I'm right there. Or Chianti even, but
I'm going to shoot you straight. I don't know what that means.
Oh, those are just other wines.
Okay.
Do you like Cabernet?
Yeah. Okay. So let me real quick just tell you about how much I know about wine. It's a little bit more than 0. And anything that's like a super dark red wine or super jammy, like the deeper, more complex and darker it is, the more I like it. The lighter it is, like if it's in the middle of the road, I'm probably not into it.
Okay, so you like bold wine.
Yeah. That said, though, I mean, I'll dig Vino Verde. Like when it's hot out, I'm eating chicken. I'm eating scallops or something like that. Like, give me some of that real, light, bright stuff. I like that too. So I like both ends of the spectrum, but not a whole lot in between.
That's totally fair. I think, like we said, we don't know what cab this is. I don't think it was some big release because they're not telling us about it, which is a sign of the marketing.
And like you said, they probably don't know themselves.
Yeah. So, great question from Animal J. It should pop up here in a second. Sorry. What prevents doing a pre-sale on a private barrel? We'll get to that one in a second. This is a really rich nose, caramel, strawberry. It's really not. I wouldn't scream cab, but this is like juicy, jammy. That youth note's gone. That pepper note's also gone. So this is sweeter, jammier.
Isn't it crazy how the French finish picked up all of that spice?
Crazy.
And this cab just threw all the spice right out the window.
Yeah, which I think is cool. I wouldn't have known if I had just the French oak. I wouldn't know that all of that spice was coming out of that barrel. Just like if I had just the cab, I would know all this jammy was coming out of the barrel, especially for 6 months. But so we can do pre-sales. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say they picked the perfect neutral bourbon to be their straight bourbon.
Yeah, or it really responds well.
Yeah. It's probably a nicer way of saying it.
Or it's
I don't think calling it a neutral bourbon was really what they were hoping to hear.
The vodka bourbon and bourbons.
It's totally good. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I won't knock that. But so we could do pre-sales. Right now, we have enough interest that we don't have to. We've done typically what we do is what's called an interest check or an IC. You see this even still. We did one for bourbon, and that's where I kind of poll and say, how many people are interested, and if that number is greater than the number that I need to kind of prove to myself that there's enough people, that's great. We're going to do another pick coming up in which you will actually do a pre-sale. You will get picked and you will buy your bottle after we select it, but before it physically arrives. And that's because some retailers, they have to cut a check on day one, and it's a lot of money. Some places don't mind, some places do, and I totally get that. That's on them, and especially if they're taking a chance with us at our bourbon. But we'll pivot here after we finish this bottle. We'll talk about maybe some Smooth Ambler. I think that would be relevant based on that question. And I do really like champagne and pizza, but nothing really prevents us. It's mostly we haven't needed to until now, but that time's coming, and we will do one for an upcoming selection.
All right, let's dig into this cab.
Yeah, so jammy nose, much jammier than I would have expected. Graham cracker, waffle cone, sunflower seed.
Man, I dig that waffle cone note.
Yeah.
A lot. I wish you didn't start using that because it's one that I was always like in my back pocket. Like when I'd be
Oh
trying something
man.
with, like sitting down at camp after a long day of hunting or whatever it is that we're doing, hanging out, and I'd be like, man, I wait for all my buddies to kind of dig through, and I'm like, you guys get any waffle cone on that? That's a note that I like in there.
Yeah, man. It probably like a year ago I smelled something and I was like, waffle cone. And since then I get little hints here and there. It's like not too desserty, it's not too graham crackery, but like I
Just
just
a little
like,
bit of that like buttery goodness, man.
yeah, every year, once a year, we go up to Traverse City, Michigan. There's a place called Moomers if you're in Michigan, and right when you walk in, you just get hit by the smell of waffle cone. And that's like a really visceral memory for me that like I
I'm
can't
not
forget waffle cone.
entirely sure if I've heard visceral memory tied to waffle cone before.
I know it's like
and
I don't
also,
know that I had either, but yeah,
I'm just super pumped that I wasn't in the middle of taking a sip of this when Hokie mentioned that you really just like champagne and pizza, because I might have shot this out of my fucking eyes as you're taking a drink now and trying not to die.
It's the best. Make a homemade pizza, drink some champagne. I think champagne is a wine that people only use to celebrate, and you should use it for everything. This is why you're cooking.
Oh yeah, I've cleaned the house with champagne. I've cooked meatballs with champagne. I've eaten meatballs with champagne.
Yeah, I wouldn't advocate drinking like $90 champagne while you cook, but like
no, absolutely not.
That like $18 price point is just killing it for champagne.
Yeah, I mean, I would go as far as to say 12 to 25. You could do a shitload of damage in more ways than one. Especially if you're going to spend the day like a few years back. I spent the New Year's Eve day cooking, and I just wanted to put on a big feast. We had some friends over and everything, and I was, scratch making everything, meatballs, Alfredo, pasta, all of it. And I was like, I should probably open one bottle of champagne. So I did. And then like kind of realized it's like 11 in the morning. I'm the only one here, and I'm just kind of like doing a bunch of things by myself. And then I crushed the whole bottle. I was like, you know what? It's New Year's. It's no big deal. Then you open one more. You're like, okay, now it's a party. This is awesome. Please text all your friends and let them know to bring champagne when they show up, because we don't have any more.
Yeah, and that's a thing too. It's like, especially now that it's hot, it was like 92 degrees today. Like champagne is always like that dry minerality is just fantastic. So yeah, Hokie gets it. The waffle cone life is a good life. That Chattanooga pick that's just starting to hit, it's just just rife with waffle cone in like the best way. I think we'll have to drink that on an upcoming week. I think that hits. I have a bottle coming tomorrow, I think, maybe. But man, so if you had to rank these,
seal box. Sorry,
yeah, that was a seal box pick. Now seal box, picked it for Raking Bourbon. Dad's drinking bourbon.
Yeah,
myself and Bourboner. Yeah, man, that was a good time. I'd use pliers to get those sample bottles off. So I like the cab. I felt like such an idiot. I was on video like trying to, but
I remember that. So, actually, I was listening to that one on my drive home because you guys decided to do that pick during the day. But
yeah, was it like 3:30 or like 4?
Yeah,
I had to like
it was aggressive.
Cut out to get there. But so I like the cab the best. I don't think that surprises me based on what I know about cab. After that, I think I like the French oak. Those might flip on the day based on what I want. If I want spicy French oak, cool. And I think the straight's okay. I think the straight is an excellent way to understand the canvas that the finishes are doing. And I'll leave you my personal thoughts. I don't think the straight, I wouldn't buy the straight. I think I would buy it if you want to test these 3 out. But if you're just looking to buy one bottle, I'd buy the cab. I'd wait for it to come down to about 40, 42. But if you're determined to spend under 50 and you want something interesting, I'd buy it. Those are my thoughts wrapped up, which is a lot of words to say. I probably wouldn't buy this on a normal day. But, there's not a lot of wine finished bourbon that I think isn't bad. This certainly isn't bad. It's not the most interesting thing, but it's a really cool way to see how wine influences bourbon in a 3-bottle package that you can get for under $150, which I think is about the price of 1 bottle of Labatt. So it's up to you.
Let me put it to you this way. do you think the straight bourbon is overvalued, or would you say that maybe the finishes are undervalued, or neither?
I think if these were at a 35, 45 price point, it would make a lot more sense to me than the
If that
40,
split was
45.
bigger. Yep. That's what I'm thinking
And
too.
I mean, it doesn't feel egregious. If these were over 50, I would thumbs down. I think, we'll see what they hit here at. I think they will come down a few bucks, but hovering around the $40 point to try, the canvas and 2 finishes that I think are pretty well done. I'm not super disappointed by that.
Yeah. I'm with
Yeah,
you
what do
there.
you think?
Yeah, I mean, if the straight were something to the effect of 30-ish bucks and the finished were 40 to even 45, I think it would make a little bit of sense that way, because then they would be showing you the value of what they did with the finish. And I think they did a great job with both finishes.
Yeah.
Honestly, when I do my reviews, I don't take price into consideration very much.
Likewise.
It's something that it's so subjective, because in one state it's going to cost X and another state it'll be Y. And it doesn't impact me. Like, if I have it blind, it doesn't matter if it's 20 bucks to $200. It's all about, nose, palate, finish.
Exactly.
And I think these all do a fine job on most of those boxes. The straight bourbon's a little bit young, but it doesn't have those weird grainy grassy notes. It's just not complex.
Exactly.
Between the 2 finishes, I don't know as I could pick one that I like more than the other. I thought I liked the French oak a little better. Tonight I like the cab a little better. 6 in one hand, half dozen in the other. Right.
Yeah.
I think they're both good.
Cool. Well,
I dig this. I dig the spice, and I think that cab is just a little bit more of a buttery feel to it too. The mouthfeel is just a touch more luxurious, which is pretty cool for what they've done with 6 months.
Yeah, I think you nail it right there. If I was to go so far as to say that these were well behaved, I would. These aren't hot for 48%. We're coming up in that bottled and bond. I would guess that this is like 44.
Yep.
This which I think I gloss over multiple. This is drinking really well for the proof. And it could stand up in a cocktail. I think that you could spend your money on better things, but I think that if you spent your money on this, you would not be disappointed.
Absolutely. I think it'd be cool if they sold this thing as a box set too, man. That shit would sell around the holidays.
Or 3 200 milliliters with like a little mixing.
That would sell all year round, man. If more, man, I wish 3 200 mLs. I could talk about that for an hour and a half, man.
Yeah, make that $60, $70. I'm fine with it.
For fuck's sake, put 10 of them in a box together, and I'll spend $250 on it to try all sorts of shit out.
Yeah, the Sam's Club value pack.
Now you're talking my language. I want to order a 10-pack of bourbon, please, to go.
Yeah, bourbon to go. Put it on my card. Boom, boom. But
exactly.
Yeah, honestly, I'm kind of surprised. I expected these to be just okay. I'm a little more impressed than I expected. As a reminder and fair disclosure, we were sent these, but it was weird. They're kind of hands off. They just kind of showed up one day. So take it into they just popped up. So there's not a
I think it's handled through a third-party media or something, where they kind of say, here's the allotment going out for media samples. Vet people to a small degree. Make sure that they're not scumbags who are talking about this on YouTube on Tuesday night. Sorry, snuck one in. And other than that, just get these out to people who want to try them. And here we are. I think they're decent, though.
Yeah, I will. I'll definitely be drinking it again.
Yeah, I think I would. So a lot of times when I get media samples, I like to give it to buddies like, hey, try this out. Tell me what you think of it. This is what I thought of it after they tell me what they think.
Yeah.
There's a chance, like, especially during hunting season, man, like I'll bring these anytime we're going to be sitting on the tailgate or sitting at camp. And these ones probably won't make it that long, because I mean, I like them enough that I'll drink these.
I'm super pumped. I can't wait to try this French in cocktails, or like a sour, like a nice spicy sour. I bet will be
all right.
Be pretty.
I never make sours.
You should in summertime.
Yeah, but I'm just like fucking lazy.
It is hard. I juiced 10 pounds of citrus this weekend, and like my fingers are like falling off.
Well, I mean, phrasing aside, I also just feel like if I'm gonna make a cocktail, it's just so easy to put some nice Gucci ice in a cup with gin and then a splash of fucking lime seltzer on top of it and pretend it's a cocktail. Like,
I mean, that is the best cocktail.
I do like that a lot.
So I guess maybe that kind of wraps up the tasting part. To give you guys some information, tomorrow there will be a text post with all the Russell's information. And on top of that, I'm happy to announce we will be doing a Smooth Ambler selection. We'll probably take one barrel, at least one barrel, maybe a second or third. I have to talk to Smooth Ambler, our broker retailer, this kind of week. So look for an interest check for that. It'll be about 5-year. It'll come from MGP. It'll be about $50 plus shipping. So really reasonable. Whew. I want to say they're pretty standard high rye mash bill. I won't know for sure. To a Nuge, I believe that's how I pronounce the name. I apologize if it's wrong. The barrels that we picked last week were 763 and 766. They are both from Warehouse G. They're from the 4th floor. They're coming in just a bit shy of 9 years, which is kind of fitting what we expected from them. And they're coming in at 117 and 118 proof. They'll be down to 55% ABV, 110 proof on bottling. So if you were looking for the hard details, I'll post a picture tomorrow to Reddit with a write-up. We'll have some tasting notes, all that fun stuff. But, we have the info. We know the barrels. We get 2 of them, which I think is pretty cool. So we should get about 300 bottles, 330 maybe.
Did they say that?
That's my guess. I don't know for sure.
I would be very skeptical. I'd be reticent to give a number, put it that way.
Really? You think we'll be under 300?
I think it's very possible.
It could happen. These are younger, which is kind of why I'm like,
Weren't they both over 9 years, though?
No, they were distilled on November 21st, 2011.
What I'm going to need you to do is just actually do the math for me. Only one of us has something about loving math in their profile.
In their bios. Yeah. So in about 5 months, these will be 9 years old.
Okay. So we're approaching a 9-year on those, which makes me a little bit less nervous, but still, I mean, I've seen these things come out. Like DJ said, he's seen them in the 40s for bottle count.
I've seen one in the mid 30s. So
I've seen them in the 60s in the 9-year range. So I mean, and these are also not from the barrels you guys are picking from were from the Tyrone warehouses, not the Camp Nelson. So maybe there's a different evaporation there. I don't really know that well, but I'd be pretty surprised if they were over 300, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's probably a good point. The key is we won't know. I will know soon. We'll keep doing these on Tuesdays. I think it's, if you guys hate this, let me know. But I think it's kind of a fun way to talk to you guys and just get questions in real time. I think it's a super fun format. And honestly, I can either drink bourbon by myself or I can drink it with my buddy John here, which is a pretty cool setup to me. But yeah, we'll do a Smooth Ambler pick too. I'm also looking at doing at least 4 more selections this year for bourbon. We'll get some mods involved in tasting. We'll maybe get some community members in based on how many sample packs we get. But I'd be surprised if we didn't hit a half a dozen for our bourbon this year, which I'm super pumped about because we did one last year. We did a single pick, and then COVID hit. This has ground a lot of stuff to a halt, and it's cool to see. COVID stopped a lot of things for us, but it's cool to see a lot of people still interested in bourbon and rallying around it and coming to hang out and talk and ask good questions while we pick bourbon, because otherwise we do this by ourselves, right? Everyone sits at home and picks samples, and we've never had a good way to share that picking process with you guys. And honestly, I don't mind it. I'd keep doing it every single time. So if you like it, let us know. You can text me. You can find me on Instagram. Find me on my website. You can find me on Reddit. But yeah, I don't know. Did you have anything else to cover tonight, John? I think that.
No, I mean, I figured if I had been thinking, I probably would have thrown the Q&A banner up a little sooner. But I mean, fucking Hokie was just killing us with killer questions all night. I mean, we didn't have to do any work to have good interaction. These guys just did all the work for us.
I don't know about you. Nice. I got some time. We could throw it up for like 10 minutes. I'm having a pour of a Buffalo Trace to compare. We could kind of shoot the shit until the next 10 minutes, see what else rolls in. But
I haven't quite knocked these out
yet. Great question, Anuj. It's like me. Yeah. So Is there? Okay, so that's a question mark. There's not a question mark in there, but I'm picking it up from you. We're actually still waiting. We're waiting on one or two. The Wardhead's still got a few bottles left, but I would be surprised if we didn't do more Scotch at some point. This is about the best I can tell you right now.
You know what we should do? And this is
What
going
up?
to be classic me because I'm a rye guy.
Ooh.
We need to, when things start kicking back over, spend a weekend at the Whistle Pig Farm
Mm.
and do a pig pick.
I do really want an Alberta. I don't care about the MGP stuff. I would kill for an Alberta Whistle
Oh,
Pig
the Berta
pick.
rye, man, it's so good.
Yeah, that's top rye for me. Man, that's a good idea.
We should do that.
I'll give him a call. Food pairings for which bottle specifically?
Well, let's just go through from the whiskey cam, from camera left over. We'll start with the cab.
Yeah. Ooh, cab. I would do with charcuterie. I would do like a nice salty salami. I would do a soft cheese like a brie. Maybe garlic and crackers. I think that'd go well.
I think you're losing me on the brie, but I'm with you on the charcuterie. I think I'd probably mix in some briny olives in there, maybe even calamatas, something to that effect.
Yeah, really go with that nice oily jamminess.
Yeah, I think that makes up real nice.
All right, you got me on board. I could go Kalamata.
Okay. So onto the straight, I think maybe. Oh, geez, let's say. I almost wanted to say to throw in a highball and to have it alongside of like a summer lunch, like a BLT or something like that, where it's not like necessarily going to stand out on its own or lose itself in a mild cocktail.
Yeah. I mean, I would highball that. I think if you were going for refreshing, if you just wanted to pair, oh man, that'd go good with sourdough, I think.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a sourdough sandwich, maybe some caprese.
Okay.
I'm trying to think. That one I think will be the hardest to pair because it had the least character. Like I usually try and think of like things that contract or contrast, sorry. But yeah, I know that for the French oak though is just like, man, I would take like crackers and jam to pair. I would take, maybe that's a good place for the brie. A little bit sweeter, softer cheese with that big spice. I'd drink that with pizza, to be honest with you. I'd put champagne away for a night with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm trying to think what spicy bourbon would I put with a nice food. Honestly, I would drink that with lobster. With a lobby.
With some lobbies, man, absolutely. Crush a few of them.
Yeah. I mean, you get the sweet butter, you got the sweet lobster meat, then you get the nice spice on the bourbon. It's probably a little bit colder.
Dude, I could definitely try that out for you soon. Lobster's so cheap here right now. It's just absolutely stupid. It's like $4.99 a pound.
It's like $19.99 a pound here.
They're like just giving it away, basically.
My God.
Yeah.
That is ridiculous.
I'll send you some 2-ounce lobster samples.
Sir, this box is moving.
There's something in here making a weird noise, and it smells a little fishy. What's going on?
Yeah, it's like that Chevy Chase movie, Christmas Vacation, where he wraps up a cat.
Oh my God, I love that movie.
But yeah, I honestly I don't pair that much food to bourbon. I kind of drink it afterwards. Going on to the Eagle Rare 10 in 1792. Honestly, I'm not surprised that they're sweeping awards. I've been a huge fan of Eagle Rare. I know that that's not the hip thing to say because now it's hard to find. But it's really good bourbon. It's 10 years. It's never too oaky. It's got a really nice oak structure without being too oaky. It's peppery. With as much craft as there are in the competitions now, I'm also not surprised that Henry McKenna won, which I think will probably be more contentious. But 1792 is weird. Some of them can be really hot. Some of them can be really good. I think that one is based on whatever barrel showed up. I've had some phenomenal 1792, and I've had some really just all right average. Ooh, 99 a pound.
He's in Maine. Like to pair cigars and bourbon, yeah. Okay.
That's fair. I'm not a huge bourbon cigar pairing guy. I like one or the other. But I don't know. Do you smoke cigars, John?
Occasionally. I'm not like well versed at all. I mean, I'm definitely not the dude who's going to pair one to a bourbon or anything like that. But if I'm golfing or hanging out with some buddies who are smoking cigars, I don't think I've ever turned one down. But I don't know shit about shit.
Okay. Yeah.
I know more about wine than I do cigars. But I like
cigars, but I'm never really lining to pair them up with booze.
Ooh, there's a good one.
That is a good one. I don't know. We'll probably take some community suggestions. If it's ridiculous, I'll tell you it's ridiculous and tell you to go home.
Mm-hmm.
Not really, but yeah, I don't know. We're not big into the wild stickers. I think an informative sticker like Diamond in the Riff makes a lot of sense. But now names are still out. We'll probably throw out the tasting notes and we'll see what the community says. Because after all, it's a community pick, even though only a couple people got to taste it. So
cool. I dig it, man. I had a good time with these bourbons. This is again, like, cheers to Lux Row for hooking us up with these bottles to try out, but also just for having the foresight to be like, you know what, if we're going to finish this stuff 2 different ways, let's send it all out at once so they can try it all. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, I think the best thing they did a job. I mean, the bourbons are okay. Bourbons are good. The best thing they did was see a hole in the whiskey market. You know, I can't think of something like this out there. And I think it's cool. I think that kind of ingenuity is what's keeping bourbon super cool and interesting. And, you know, keep it up. They have an okay reputation. They've done some weird stuff in the past, but if they keep doing stuff like this, I think they'll find themselves in good shape.
I'm with you.
So cool. Well, thank you guys. Thank you everyone for hanging out. I am Jay from Take That Review. You can find me online. I'm T8KE. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter. And if you want to talk, we'll talk. I'm work from home full time now. So if you have a question, I have an answer, I'll try. And my time is free. So just drop me something and we'll see what's up. Thanks again to John. Go ahead and lead us on out.
Perfect. Well, guys, I want to say thanks to everybody who came in, stuck around, listened to our bullshit. Check these out with us. I'm John. You can get my website at TheBourbonFinder.com. Do a little bit of reviewing and stuff there, usually long-winded bullshit articles. And I kind of take deep dives into things that don't really need it, like cocktail cherries and shit like that. But
that was a cool one.
The cocktail, that was fun. That was a fun article. Took a lot of time, but it was well worth it, I think. If you're interested in Discord, connecting with the community or anything like that, I am building the Whiskey Net, which is where I'm offering Discord servers and just basically trying to get whiskey content in front of whiskey people and just sort of build the community as we go. I mean, that's what it's been about so far. And we've been doing a really, I think, pretty good job of getting a lot of us together that just kind of bullshit all day and have a lot of fun. If people don't really get on board with sharing their stuff in a public way, you could do it in sort of a private setting that way. And everybody kind of shares a little bit of reviews, you know, bottle swaps and things like that happen too. We have just, in general, a lot of fun in Discord and hanging out all day, especially with people working from home. So if you're interested in stuff like that, check out thewhiskeynet.com. And if you're interested in like what smart people do and math and things like that, check out Jay's website because his reviews are usually on point and I really like his style. So I guess, long story short, try some of these finishes out. I think you might like them. Cheers.
Cool. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.